What's up? What's shaking is pork chops and bacon. You understand me? This your boy Easy Work Boxing. About to hit you everywhere but under your feet with this one. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You understand me? Conor Benn loses to Chris Eubank Jr. I thought about it wrong, due to the weight issues and dropping weight. I thought my boy Chris Eubank wasn't going to come out on top. Shout out to Conor Benn. Shout out to Chris Eubank. You know what I'm saying? For those who thought it was right, you know what I'm saying? For my boy Chris Eubank, hey, shout out to y'all. Y'all did the right thing. But hey, let's talk about the fight, man. Let's talk about the fight. Got to give a shout out to Conor Benn. Conor Benn, he saw his strategy. He seen that Chris Eubank keeps that left down. He keeps that left hand down. Caught him with the right hand second round, hurt him. Chris Eubank being a small fighter using that jab like he was supposed to. I feel like if Chris Eubank probably would have went, a little bit probably. He was at 75% or 50% tonight, y'all. 55% at the most. If this would have been, what you can't say because of the weight difference, but if Chris Eubank Jr. would have been at his, top level performance at 168, he would have beat the hell out of Conor Benn. But Conor Benn was ferocious. He came out there, he was searching for the knockout too much. He was searching for the knockout too much, and that's probably why he lost the fight. The experience of Chris Eubank Jr. came out on top using the jab, staying calm, staying focused, even when he was hurt. He did his job. You know what I'm saying? I told y'all this fight wasn't even supposed to happen. You can see the size difference in the ring. You can literally see the size difference in the ring between both of them. But if this was a real fight at 168, or both of them would have been at 168, I think Conor Benn probably would have got it. With the power that he showed moving up, which Conor Benn was more comfortable. Y'all have to understand, when a fighter is moving up in weight, he's more comfortable. He ain't got to, lose no weight. He ain't got to drop down. He ain't got to do too much. Conor Benn was more comfortable. And for him to fight and still lose to Chris Eubank Jr., who had to drop weight, rehydration clause, clearly shows that they on two different levels as boxers. I feel like if Conor Benn would have, if he would have been a superior boxer and not been too mad and ferocious, getting slapped with eggs and things of that nature, then, he probably would have came out and boxed a better fight. But like his father said, Chris Eubank Sr. said, you will see that Conor Benn will come out there ferocious, and that will make him lose the fight. And that's exactly what happened. He kept catching Chris Eubank Jr. with his hand down. It's something Chris Eubank Jr. has to work on. It's not guarding his face when he's throwing that jab. But he came out there, he did his job, he did a spectacular performance. I didn't watch the fight, I'm watching the highlights as we talk. But as I'm seeing, Chris Eubank Jr. kept his composure against a ferocious fighter who was coming out there to try to knock him out. And also, this also proves the fact of this too. When a fighter fluctuates weight, when a fighter goes down in weight and comes back up, the punches that Conor Benn hit Chris Eubank Jr. with that hurt him, he wouldn't have hurt him if it wasn't the fact that he was losing so much weight and coming down. When you go up and, let me tell y'all something about boxing. When people get mad at me when I say this about in you out. When fighters go up in weight, they lose something. They lose speed, they lose power, they lose something. Okay? All right? So with Conor Benn going up in weight at 154, and he's able to punch and hit Chris Eubank Jr. and hurt him, a fighter that's naturally fighting at 168, clearly shows you of what I said, that it's unnatural for fighters to keep dropping down in weight and going back up for the fluid that's on their head. Now you're gonna say, or Conor Benn fan, Conor Benn just has power like that. No, he don't have power like that, because if he would have punched him at 168 pounds naturally without a rehydration clause, which if Chris Eubank Jr. fights at 168, Chris Eubank Jr. nearly walks around at 200 pounds. Nearly walks around at 200 pounds. So trust me, those punches that Conor Benn was landing wouldn't have hurt Chris Eubank Jr. if he wasn't fluctuating weight like that. Okay? Still give him credit though. Put on a great performance, Shout out to Conor Benn. He tried his best, but at the end of the day, experience mattered. And I thought due to the fact of the situation of, the fluctuating weight and dropping down and rehydration clauses that he was possibly going to catch Chris Eubank Jr. and hurt him like he did several times. Well, not several times, maybe once or twice in a fight, maybe 3 times in a fight, and it will possibly stop him. But Chris Eubank Jr., experienced fighter, came out and did what was necessary to win, y'all. Did what was necessary to win. You clearly see in the ring that they weren't even supposed to be in the same ring together. And I like the fact that Chris Eubank Sr. actually came out with his son. I love that. Even though, he said his talk, he said disgrace his sons or disgrace to boxing, this, that, and other. It was great for him to walk out with his son. And I really appreciate Chris Eubank Sr. for doing that. Even though I agree with him, a lot of stuff that's going on in boxing, even though it's been going on. I mean, hey, Larry Holmes jumped off a car and kicked the dude in a press conference. You know what I'm saying? We didn't see Riddick Bowe punch a dude, give a dude a 2-piece in a press conference. So this ain't the first time we ain't seen, a lot of action going on in press conference, even though it wasn't hitting people with eggs or stuff like that. But, that's just how it go in boxing. In heated situation, things happen. But I agree with the father, the commission, things like that. If Chris Eubank Jr., if they were, I'm putting it to you like this. If Conor Benn would have fought Chris Eubank Jr. at 160 and 168, and Chris Eubank Jr. didn't have to cut weight down to 160 or rehydration clause, he would have beat the hell out of Conor Benn. He would have murdered Conor Benn tonight. Chris Eubank Jr. was at 55%. I'll give him 65%. You can tell from his movement. He wasn't even fighting himself. Chris Eubank Jr. is a body puncher. He go towards you. You know what I'm saying? But he played the game how it was supposed to go with what he had to go through to win a fight. That's a smart fighter. And shout out to Chris Eubank Jr. for doing that. He played the game how it was supposed to go. I'm not going to go into a rock'em sock'em robot a match with you when I know really I'm going to tell the public I'm at 100%, but I know I'm going to be at 65%. I'm not going to go toe for toe for you and blow for blow with you. I'm not going to do that. They'll be stupid. So he played the game how it went, and he came out victorious. A lot of people say they want to see a rematch for what? For what? Conor Benn is not going to be a 168-pound overnight. It's not going to make a difference. Now, in this situation, what's going to make it worse is that Chris Eubank Jr. has the right to negotiate whatever he wants if they really want to fight. Hey, if you want to fight me, you got to come to 168. No rehydration clause, nothing. He will put Conor Benn in a damn coma. He will put Conor Benn in a damn coma. And one thing we did see, one thing about Conor Benn, his power and his speed carried at 154, almost at 154. So he can move up to 154 or stay at 147, which I think he'll be more dangerous at 147, with what he showed tonight against a 100 and, naturally a 168 pounder, boosting them need to be on the lookout. He's dangerous. Take nothing away from Conor Benn. He's very dangerous. Fast, powerful. Do I think he could beat the boots? No. Even though, he lacks the technical part of boxing, he lacks defense, even though he put on a good performance tonight. Brian Norman Jr. possibly could beat Brian Norman Jr. Mario Barrios, done deal. He had to go at 147 and challenge the title holders out there. He showed at 154 he still can carry that power. So if he fight at 147 and rehydrate to 154 or something, he will knock a 147 pounder out. He will knock a 147 pounder out. So Conor Benn is very dangerous. He's very dangerous. And the sad part about it is, this is a fight that he shouldn't even took. I understand you wanted, the legacy of your father's names. Y'all wanted to do it for that, but now you got your first loss from a fight that you didn't even have to take. You didn't have to take this fight, Conor Benn. I know you wanted to put the Benn name on top, but now you left it open to where Chris Eubank Jr. wins the negotiations. He gonna be the A side, you gonna be the B side. So whatever he determines, whenever you want a rematch, depending on how much money they made off this fight, which I'm sure was a lot, especially in the UK, you're gonna have to fall to the knees of Chris Eubank Jr. when you didn't have to. Good right hand by Chris Eubank. The experience of Chris Eubank came out on top. But I thought he was going to lose, honestly. Y'all know easy work. He going to tell you. I used to be the king of this shit. You understand me? The king of it. I'm back. Y'all going to see a lot more of me. You know what I'm saying? They put my videos up there. Ain't letting people know what my channel at. Nothing like that. But easy work. We finna come back. We coming for the crown, man. Real deal boxing talk. No bias talk. We going to bring it back to you. Okay? We're going to bring it back to you. Also, we got to talk about the part of having a team that loves you. I seen Chris Eubank Jr. getting walked out the arena, held on his shoulder, dude holding him up damn near. The man could have died in the ring for this. This is when you need a team that says, no, man, we're not going to do this. I don't want the 10%. I don't want whatever percent. I don't want no money you going to give us. You shouldn't take this fight. This is when you need a team that loves you. You see what I'm saying? Conor Benn team was straight. Conor Benn moving up. It ain't no problem for Conor Benn. But this is when you need a team that loves you. This is when you need a trainer that loves you. A cut man that loves you. To step up to you and say, bro, there ain't no reason you should take this fight, bro. You could get hurt. That man hits you the wrong way in your head, man, you could die, bro. We don't want you to take this fight. Forget the money, Chris. Forget the money, Chris. You need a team like that behind you. This man somebody was carrying Chris Eubank Jr. out the arena and to the backstage. Literally carrying him. This shows the heart of Chris Eubank Jr. of how bad he wanted to win this fight. Fighting at 65%. The man wasn't at 100%, even though he won. Like I said, if Chris Eubank Jr. was able to come at his natural weight at 168, he probably would have killed Conor Benn. Y'all know Chris Eubank Jr. with the uppercuts, body punching. Y'all know that. Even though he's transitioned and learned different things using a jab, training with Bomac and different trainers, he would have beat the hell out of Conor Benn tonight. Conor Benn showed a lot of mistakes, especially in defense, which is why I think that if he go to 147 and challenge Boots, he wouldn't win. Brian Norman, yes. Brian Norman, he has a chance. Mario Barrios, he has a chance. But Boots, no. Before y'all even started, Conor Benn should come back down and fight Boots. No, he shouldn't. No. Lacks too much his defense. Lacks defense. Boots is too much of a well-around fighter. And I'm saying against the competition that we saw Boots fight. And the fact that Conor Benn lacks defense, no. Switching southpaw and stances on Conor Benn. The only chance that Conor Benn has against Boots is the power punch. If Boots boxes him, out of there. Brian Norman, Mario Barrios, his best shot. Chris Eubank Jr. used that jab. Smart move by Chris Eubank. Use the jab. Oh, good jab by Chris Eubank. Use the jab. Use the jab. Keep him off you. Now, what's next for Chris Eubank? Don't know. You know, at the end of the day, like I said, he gains nothing from really winning this fight besides the rivalry of families. You know, they can go home and say, hey, we got one over the Benns. But at the end of the day, he gained nothing. He didn't gain the title. He put himself in danger to make this fight. You know what I'm saying? He gained nothing by doing this. So what's next for Chris Eubank Jr.? 168, Canelo holds the titles. Canelo's fighting Skull next, possibly Terrence Crawford. You know, as far as legacy, Chris Eubank Jr. don't have the opportunity. You don't have the opportunity to do nothing for his legacy. As long as Canelo run around with them belts, nah. And this is a question we need to ask. Even if, let's just say, Canelo Alvarez push Terrence Crawford to the side, David Benavidez to the side, as he's been doing for years, said, I wanted to challenge Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. wouldn't win. He wouldn't win. Keeping that left hand down like that, where Conor Benn could counter you and hurt you, even though you weren't at your natural, you know what I'm saying, you had to fluctuate weight and stuff, which that's probably the reason to hurt you. Canelo Alvarez, no. Still couldn't be Canelo Alvarez, even though some people saying he getting older and Canelo, you know what I'm saying, is on his way out the game. Chris Eubank Jr. still couldn't be Canelo Alvarez. Still couldn't beat him. But great performance. Great performance by Chris Eubank Jr., but he still won't be able to beat Canelo Alvarez. Fights with 160, Demetrius Andrade will beat the hell out of Chris Eubank. Caleb Plant outboxed the hell out of Chris Eubank. I don't even see Chris Eubank Jr. really beating. What's the guy lost to Canelo recently? Edgar Berlanga. I don't see him beating Edgar Berlanga at 168. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. will ever be a champion. Just like he challenged himself to beat Conor Benn, he needs to try to challenge himself. He can't even move up to what? 175 now. David Benavidez. I mean, he in a rock between a hard place. There's no way where he can go to get a title unless he was to do what he did this fight and drop down to 160 and fight somebody, a title holder at 160. Canelo's not going to give him the opportunity. I mean, he might to duck somebody. Canelo may give him the opportunity to duck Terrence Crawford, David Benavidez. You know, let me fight Chris Eubank Jr., highlighted fighter after this fight, bring UK money to him. Of course, they're going to bring the UK money. That's a big fight for Canelo Alvarez right now. You know, especially after him being Conor Benn. But other than that, Chris Eubank Jr. ain't going to 175. He stands no chance. Gets a better beat. Bivol beats him. So, and then, you know, I brought up the situation of, you know, behind the scenes in boxing, they know what's going on. You know, it's just like you know what's going on with your coworkers. You know who smoke weed. You know who do heroin. You know who come late. You know who boyfriend beat up on them. You know what I mean? You know everything about your coworkers. It's the same way in boxing behind the scenes. And like I said, not knocking Chris Eubank. I don't care about his pockets, but he's a known gambler. So why would you think that Chris Eubank would jump in the ring, take a chance of gaining nothing in legacy, not a title or anything, fighting Chris Eubank Jr., not Conor Benn, putting himself in jeopardy where he could possibly lose his life if he's hit the wrong way? Why do you think that he would do that? Because behind the scenes, Eddie Hearn knows that Chris Eubank Jr. is an addictive gambler. Just like Floyd Mayweather. I said this in my short. Just like Floyd Mayweather. A lot of y'all didn't believe that Floyd Mayweather was going down. And I hate to say that. I don't care about his money. He's seen more money than I could ever think about. And shout out to Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd Mayweather has a gambling addiction too. And behind the scenes, people know that, just like 50 Cent said. Champ, get the money and spend the money. So ask yourself this, why is it that Chris Eubank Jr. would take a chance like this? There's no reason for the fight. I'm a 168 pounder. You're a 147 pounder. I get nothing in legacy. I get no title, nothing. Nothing. If I beat you, which he did, he was supposed to beat him. If I beat you, I was supposed to beat you. He gains nothing from this victory besides the fact that he won. And the fact that he could go home and say, hey, the Eubanks got one up again on the Benz. That's all he could go home with. No legacy, no nothing. He was supposed to win this fight, y'all. He was supposed to. Bigger man, more experience. We've seen Conor Benn dropped by lesser competition. Don't really have a resume. One of the best fighters on Conor Benn's resume is who? Chris Algieri. And I'm not knocking Conor Benn. I'm not knocking Conor Benn. But the best fighter on his resume is what? Chris Algieri? Chris Eubank don't get nothing for this. Yeah, he gets nothing for this. So, you know, the rematch, if there is a rematch, Chris Eubank Jr. controls it. He gets to decide here, there, everywhere, and what he wants. Which it doesn't make sense. This fight shouldn't happen, much less the rematch. Look at the size. When y'all watching the fight, go back and watch the highlights of the full fight. Look at the size. Look at the size difference. If you know boxing, you will clearly see that Chris Eubank Jr. was at 65-55% that fight. And still came out on top. Still came out on top. He said Chris Eubank was hitting him everywhere but on his feet. Hit the like button if you coming in and you watching. Please hit the like button. It don't cost you nothing. People really thought Conor Benn would win. When his dad couldn't even win. Let me see. Easy work. We be back at it next weekend, bro. Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Riley, Canelo, all in the same weekend. Yes, sir, we will be. And that's a good time to talk about boxing. I told y'all, easy work back, man. Easy work is back. Chris Eubank was just a more experienced fighter, and he did what's necessary to go out there and win. You know, shout out to Conor Benn. He tried his best, but it just wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. And now he's got a loss on his record. Which the loss really means nothing at the same time because he fought a guy who's bigger than him. He was supposed to lose to. But as far as negotiations of saying he'll want to fight a Boots or he will want to fight a Brian Norman or Mario Barrios, of course he'll be the B-side. With a 23-0 record, he should have never took this fight. He should have never took this fight. And like Chris Eubank Sr. was saying, With them being off and fighting only 3 times in 3 years, they weren't ferocious like they're supposed to be. This would probably have been a better fight if they'd have been fighting multiple times throughout 3 years. So Conor Benn really set himself up for failure. Fighting a bigger guy, more experience. Shouldn't have took the fight. Shouldn't have took this fight at all. But see, the thing about it, the father wanted revenge. You know what this is? The father wanted the revenge more than anybody. And I'm talking about Nigel Benn. Nigel Benn supposed to told his son, don't take this fight. You ain't got no reason to. I know you want to uphold our name and you want to get back. Son, don't take this fight. You undefeated. Do your thing at welterweight. When it's time for you to move up, if he's still there later on, take the possibility and beat him. Now, y'all sitting somewhere looking stupid as hell. Your dad looking stupid as hell because your dad's sitting up there saying, I promise you, Nigel Benn is somewhere watching his son hurt from this loss and saying, I should have never told you to take this fight. But due to the fact Nigel Benn wanted his family to get back, he sent his son in the ring in a fight he had no business being in. And now his son can't negotiate nothing with the guys at 147. Fathers are destroying boxing. Y'all seen what's going on with Floyd Schofield and his dad. Floyd Schofield Sr. is destroying his son's future in boxing. Devin Haney. Shout out to Bill Haney, great father. Shout out to the fathers for being stand-up men and giving their son careers. But you're supposed to step out the side and get out the way, man. You're supposed to get out the way. You're supposed to let a real deal fighter come train your son and prepare him for war in that battlefield. Yeah, you brought him to being a champion. Shout out to Bill Haney. He did it. Let Floyd Mayweather Sr., Mickey Bay, people train his son. That's what fathers are supposed to do. All this negotiating and trying to be businessmen and no, man. Y'all destroying y'all son's career. Y'all are destroying y'all son's career. And shout out to you for being great dads. Y'all are great dads. You know what I'm saying? Step up, took your son to the next level in the sport that he loved, made them millionaires, able to take care of their family, their children. But fathers need to shut up and get the hell out of the way in boxing. Let somebody else handle that. You can have your 2 cents in it, but let people who know what they're doing, especially as a trainer if you ain't never boxed. Even if you have boxed, if you didn't make it to championship level, let somebody who made it to championship level train your son. Come on now. You want to send your son to war with a guy who just went to the army and got a dishonorable discharge in a year. You want to send them in there with a Navy SEAL. You know what I'm saying? You want to send your son there with a Navy SEAL, a Marine, somebody who did 2-3 tours in a war. And that's what a lot of these fathers in boxing are doing. They're sending their sons out there with people who have dishonorable discharges in war. And they have dishonorable discharges in war. In this case, in this situational fight, this fight, this is a situation of, I can't say Chris Eubank Jr. was a bad father in this, because he told him. Chris Eubank Jr. said the fight went. Senior said the fight shouldn't even happen. Nigel Benn is a bad father when it comes to boxing, because he should have told his son not to take this fight. Nigel Benn should have been doing what Chris Eubank Jr. Senior was doing. Nigel Benn should have been doing what Chris Eubank Senior was doing, trying not to let the fight happen. That's what Nigel Benn should have been doing. Son, you shouldn't take this fight. I'm not going to be in your corner. I don't support this fight. You have no reason to fight Chris Eubank Jr. This man is above your weight class. You undefeated. Take your chances at 147. Challenge the guys with the belts. I'm not going to rock with you on this, son. And I used to think that Chris Eubank Sr. was the bad father. Oh, he don't want to see his son surpass him. He don't want to see his son be great. But in this part of the fight, this situation, I understand totally what he was saying. And he was exactly right. Shouldn't have been happening. I hope and pray Chris Eubank Jr. is all right. Because the way he was walking out the arena, didn't look too good for him. But this is mostly all I got to say, y'all. This your boy Easy. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You know, I could go on and say the same thing over and over. I don't want to do that. You know, but I thank y'all for tuning in for a little time I've been on. And shout out to both fighters. Thank y'all for, putting on for the sport. May both of y'all go home and be safe. And holler back at your boy. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Watch the full video if you will. And I thank y'all. It's your boy Easy. I'm out.